Are you a parent? Are you planning to be? Let me tell you about Barbados in this country. We have lots of skills to help you really cope. Get a pen and paper, start to take note. Look, 4270212, man, a lot of help there waiting for you. And if you're not got the phone, no problem. Jump on any type of transportation. Perry Gas and Michael is our location. We got trade counselors there for you, even workshops to help you get through. Barbados got developmental tools. We have a nursery and a preschool, so don't forget the phone number. Don't forget the location. Barbados helping families in this nation. Our telephone number 4270212. The address Perry Gap St. Michael. Our email address admin@barbados.org. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for Pause for Parenting. This program is produced by Parent Education for Development in Barbados. My name is Cicely Clark Richmond and I am the director of Barbados. Before I go any further, I want to wish all the fathers, stepfathers, grandfathers a happy, peaceful and relaxing Father's Day. And as you relax, I invite you to continue to listen to this program as we focus on men. I told you that last week. Remember, we also looked at the importance of the father figure in child development last week. Today, we're going to hear from a father who definitely has been very busy in his professional life. I don't have the time to tell you exactly how busy he's been, but trust me, he recently stepped down from a very high-profile position, but I know he's still very busy. So, how did he handle all of this while being the father of two? It is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Edmund Hinkson to Pause for Parenting. Mr. Hinkson, thank you so much for agreeing to be here this afternoon.
Okay. Cicely, I thank you for having me.
You are welcome. You are welcome. I hope this will not be the last time. So let's begin at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your childhood. What type of household did you grow up in?
Well, first, I'd like to, as you have done, wish all my fellow fathers a happy Father's Day.
Yes.
I'm from a family of two. I just have a sister who is 5 years younger than I am. Mm-hmm. And, raised in a household with both my mother and father.
Okay.
Parenting is, of course, one of the most challenging responsibilities that you will ever have. Mm-hmm. And, I'm born in Barbados, went to England when I was 16 months old with my parents, and we lived there for 5 years. My sister is born in England. I know it would have been very challenging for my parents because, as most of Barbados knows, my sister is born deaf. Mm-hmm. And, being parents of a deaf child, especially in mid-60s, growing up in the 70s, would not have been easy at all.
Of course.
And I give tremendous credit to my parents for that and, keeping us together and giving my sister Celia all the exposure that they gave to me. I mean, those were days, of course, when a lot of families kept their children with disabilities hidden, as we know, in the back rooms, and like if they were ashamed of them. That was far from the case with my parents, and their attitude, towards my sister certainly would have shaped my character, and obviously influenced tremendously my commitment to people with disabilities, which has been a lifelong commitment.
Definitely. So tell us a little bit about your relationship with your father.
Well, as I said, my dad and mom would have jointly raised me and being responsible for my upbringing and character building. As we know, the main aspects of your character, I believe psychiatrists agreed, are formed in the first 7 years of your lifetime. And I would give my parents equal kudos for whatever good attributes I may have. My dad, well, both of them jointly would have certainly promoted in me the need for education, the need for learning, the need for as much acquisition of knowledge as is possible. And therefore, from early, I think about age 4, I would have had a set of encyclopedias.
Wow.
Britannica, I believe they were, and then
Yes, in those days,
and then
yes.
Collier's, and a big encyclopedia on all aspects of the world. You know, what the major cities and population of countries, and
So there was a heavy interest
in
or emphasis
education.
on education.
Yeah, for sure, for which I give them total credit. But of course, it's a question too of spending quality time with your children, and that was done. And not only the academic aspect of your life, but also the recreational and going to parks and
Wow.
spending time together. And
It seemed then that you had a very, very loving, caring upbringing.
yeah, and
from what I
I
gather.
think that is a large part of parenthood, showing
Yes.
your children that you love them, that they are cared for, and being affectionate to them, sharing with them their favorite enterprises, and doing a lot of joint activities.
So when you were younger, did you make up in your mind at some point, well, I want to be, if I become a dad, I want to be a father like my father. I want to raise my children the way how I was raised.
Well, I would answer that question this way. Certainly parents, and we're talking about fathers, have to serve as a role model for their children. I suppose in terms of genes, again, I'm not a scientist, but you can see from science that genes are passed on from parents to children. And children, to a large degree, model their behavior and their reactions on how their parents react and behave and mimic their parents. I mean, what I think it is Proverbs 22, verse 6, that says, raise your child in the manner of God, and how you raise them will not be lost on them when they become old. That is very, very true. So parents, and we're talking about fathers, have a tremendous responsibility in terms of their moral behavior and their values, which you want your child to adopt, because to a large extent that the child will be patterned on them and the relationships that are formed.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents would have certainly inputted on me the value of family relationships and relationships and respect for people.
So tell me, did you and your wife, you sat down and say, okay, this is how we're going to raise our children based on how I was raised, how you were raised? Was it a conscious decision, or it just came naturally in terms of how you were going to raise them?
Well, that's a very good question too, because my wife, of course, would have come from a larger family than me. She has four siblings, as opposed to my only one, and she as well was raised in a household, mother and father together, married. Before our children were born, I suppose, and that we got married, 34 years ago. I remember telling my wife, Beverly, that I would be responsible for the academic educational aspect of the children.
And she the
And she
discipline?
she the spiritual.
Oh, okay.
Not so sure that is how it worked out at all.
We'll have to ask your children.
I don't know that you could siphon off responsibilities like that between a father and a mother.
But I'm sure some people do.
Yeah, sure, certainly.
Yes.
But not that it turns out that way in every way. But, it has to be a joint upbringing. What I would say, though, is that both parents should be on the same page. There will be problems where there's conflict in terms of, for example, how to discipline a child. So there has to be agreement on that, and consistency in terms of discipline.
How was it in your
and
household?
other aspects and rules.
How was it in your household?
Did
you both always agree on certain things when it comes to the children?
Not necessarily at all. Not necessarily. You should try and agree as much as possible.
Yes.
No two people will agree on everything.
Yes, but
in
eventually
life.
you compromise and you make a choice, and you go with it.
Right. Well,
Yes.
there has to be some kind of agreement, because children, as we know, children are very intelligent and will exploit any conflict between parents or between grandparent and parent. Let's say, for example, if you live in your grandparents' home, they would exploit that difference to their advantage, believe you me.
Of course. All right, so you're a lawyer. You've been a member of Parliament, former director of the Council for the Disabled. You're a member of the Advisory Board of Directors of the Salvation Army. Very busy. Was there ever a time when, doing all that, your role as father came into question, either at home or for yourself, because of the responsibilities you had outside of the home as well?
Well, I suppose one of the keys to your character and your whole personality is how you manage your life. And yeah, I certainly, for the last 35 years or so, plus years maybe, have been involved in various aspects of public life. But you have brought 2 children into the world, and you certainly have to find time to prioritize them. I say all the time, I would not have gone into elective politics with my children still very young. And I admire those persons who have been able to do it, but my choice was not to do it. When I got into elective politics, my younger child, my son Gregory, would have been 17 years old. Growing up with them, or them growing up as young persons and teenagers, spent a lot of time together on Saturdays, especially taking them out. I was the one who carried them to birthday parties and fairs. And in addition, my nephew, who is just 4 months older than my firstborn, my daughter Erica, he used to be with us too. So you spend that time. I mean, they were tennis players, especially my son. He played tennis for Barbados juniors. Tennis is my favorite pastime, lawn tennis that is, for over 50 years, about 52 years, 53 years of my life I've been playing tennis. And, both of my children would have joined in that with me. So we played a lot of tennis together. So that would have helped as well.
Did any of them
tremendously.
follow you in terms of being a lawyer?
No.
Did you steer them away from that?
No, neither of them are lawyers.
Okay.
No. But I would have been influenced to doing law through, my father being a lawyer and my mother's father and brother. So I suppose I would have had that role model in my life.
Okay.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you think men should think about, consider? Because I know for females, we come along, we want to be, wife, mommy, et cetera, we think about these things. I'm not quite sure sometimes if men do the same thing when it comes to being fathers. You come along, you get involved, and things happen. What advice would you give men who are not yet fathers, but hope to one day become a father? What advice would you give them?
Well, Psalm 127 says, your children are a gift, a blessing from God. And parenting is one of God's most important callings. The reality of the situation is that the primary responsibility for parenting, obviously in the case of men, fatherhood, is the responsibility of the persons who brought the children into the world, not of the government, not of the politician, not of the teachers at the school. It is your responsibility as a parent. It's a case perhaps where we need to have training in parenting for young persons before they become parents. Community parenting, which I know, of course, Barbados is involved in, and the government of Barbados is getting more involved in. And within the last few years, it's key. It is not, being a great parent is not something that you're going to learn from reading a book. In a lot of cases, it's practical experience, but you have to clearly think about it and do your best, set particular values. You establish trust and respect between your children and you, foster open communication between your children and yourself, and maintain that parent-child relationship. But it is a thin line in some cases, because it isn't that you can be your child's best friend. There still has to be a demarcation, and the child still has to understand that you are the parent. But there has to be promotion of positive relationships, which will nurture a well-rounded and well-adjusted and confident child. You have to create the environment where your child will have self-confidence and self-esteem. But also, as I said, for them to understand that they have to accept responsibility and take responsibility, that when they do wrong, that they understand that there is a cost to pay for doing wrong, and to be able to admit and accept their mistakes.
What about the importance? I know you mentioned it briefly in terms of spending time, because there are some fathers who will tell you, well, I pay a child support, I make sure that your child has everything they need, but when it comes to actually spending time and making time for that child, there's so many other things that seem to take precedence for the fathers. No,
but a child doesn't only need financial support. A child needs much more than that in terms of moral support, etc. as well, and to know, like I said, that they're loved and cared for. So don't only put the blame on fathers, Cicely.
No, of course not.
We know that there are a lot of mothers out there too who will say that they're not letting, or they don't want the children to see their fathers.
Yes.
So, they go to court for child support, and I might tell a magistrate, well, they ain't letting the father see the children for whatever reason, because the father got another woman, all kind of reason, which isn't good. And quite honestly,
it's not in the best interest for the child, for sure.
Yeah, quite honestly, I tell a lot of single mothers, look, you really, especially when it is with their sons, that you are really, in my opinion, I can't be the judge, but in my opinion, you are hurting this child, your son especially, as I said, by not allowing the father and the son to spend time together, or as much time as they should. And I said son, but also daughters.
Of course.
Because in a lot of cases, a father-daughter relationship ought to be a very close relationship, just like I suppose in some case in a mother and a son. And the relationship that a daughter may have with her father in a lot of cases may determine her future relationship when she is an adult with men.
Definitely.
In terms of respect and honor and, self-esteem and the love and affection that is shown. And in a lot of cases, men may not wish to show or do not show as much affection towards their children or loved ones as we should. And there's nothing wrong at all when the children are young in showing affection, cuddling them, and telling them that I love you.
Exactly.
That's the truth.
Do you think that, and you mentioned it earlier in terms of the fathers not playing an active role, hopefully when I say in terms of they have the opportunity to, that is responsible for some of the situation that we're seeing in our society today with young boys being involved in crime, very serious crime? I
wouldn't want to put it to that, because I believe that today the evidence may very well show, and I believe it does, that fathers play a greater role in their children's lives, particularly the sons you asked about, than in past times. So I wouldn't want to put down and link any situation that may be going on in Barbados now with that issue. The reality, I believe, that spiritual and moral education is something that we need more of in Barbados, especially for boys, for males. And again, that's not a government now
responsibility
issue or responsibility. As I say, whenever I go in a church and I'm asked to speak, I make that point. Whatever church you look around, whether on a Saturday with Seventh-day Adventists or on a Sunday, essentially with all the other denominations and religions, 85% of the church made up of females, female congregation. And even when you see young people, they are young children. In most cases, they're female young girls and not young boys. So is it that the young boys are telling their parents, and as I said, in most cases, female, your mother, grandmother, great aunt, that I am not going to church?
Yes.
But a young boy should not have that choice. That's my opinion. At age 4, 5, or 6, to have a choice whether he goes to church or Sunday school. But people of your generation and mine, a lot of them would say that as children they went to church 3 times every Sunday.
Yes.
Spent the whole of Sundays essentially at Sunday school or church. And it didn't stop them or prevent them or make them weird, made them better citizens, in my opinion at least, and unable to face the world. And in terms, as I said, of those moral values. Yes. And I'm not saying that you have to believe in a God. Again, that is your choice. I'm not a judgmental person, but you have to have some spiritual and moral values and upbringing, in my opinion, to be as part of growing up to be an adult.
What would you say, looking back now, reflecting, you have your boy and girl, they're men and women now, in terms of what brought you to, I would say, the greatest joy being a dad? Not being a grandfather. Look, there's no perfect parent. Let me say that. I certainly wasn't any perfect parent. If you were to speak to my children, I believe that they would acknowledge that I tried my best, but they would tell you I certainly wasn't perfect. And looking back, there might have been 1 or 2 areas that I would have done differently based on the experience that I have now. But clearly, as I said, children with moral values and who are educated as best to their ability, and who respect people at whatever level they are, because that is key. Respect for others, and who are caring and willing to help other people, and not self-centered and egotistic. I think that they are essentially the keys. But obviously issues such as mentoring and ensuring emotional intelligence and mental health issues are key as well. Parents ought to be able to detect problems with their children from an early age, and even factors such as perhaps disabilities. I mean, if their children has dyslexia or
or hearing issues, eyesight problems.
Autism,
All of those
yes.
are issues that parents need to be in a position to detect in their children at an early age, and to be able to deal with as well, and not think that that they're going to go away and disappear by happen chance.
True. Mr. Hinkson, our time is almost up. I would like you to once again remind some of our listeners, especially the men in there, as we celebrate Father's Day and we focus on men, some of the key, maybe 2 or 3 key points that you would tell men listening to this program today, that how they can become an even better parent.
Yeah. Ensure that your children, that you create the environment where your children trust you, and that there's mutual respect. Realize that even though they are small, they still merit respect. If you're still in partnership with the child's mother, ensure that you show her respect as well, because remember that your children are looking on in all aspects of your behavior and actions, including your words. And, try and raise as well adjusted a child that understands as well the life skills and the challenges of life and has ability to solve problems. A child that understands that there has to be discipline, and that you can't do what you want all the times and get away with actions that are wrong, that there are consequences in those actions. But a child that is caring and understands that there must be volunteerism as part of their life, and it has to be what you can do for your country and your people, more so than what your country can do for you. And, they grow up to be independent and self-reliant, self-confidence as well. A lot of our children may not be as confident as they ought to be. So you have to try to raise your children to give them that self-confidence and self-esteem, and praise and reward them when they do well as part of their character building, and not only be chiding them and shouting on them all the time. But as I said, it is a tremendous responsibility, fatherhood, parenthood on the whole. But time spent, and it involves patience, certainly.
Yes.
And effort.
Lots of hard work. Lots of hard work. Yes.
But realize that you're raising a human being, and that is really and truly one of the most important roles that you will play in life.
Yes. Mr. Hinkson, thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us your story. And I wish you a fantastic Father's Day.
I thank you, Cicely, again for having me, and look forward to continuing to work with Barbados. Your organization has a tremendous role to play in terms of the raising of children and the understanding of the relationships between children and parents.
Thank you so much, sir.
Are you a parent? Are you planning to be? Let me tell you about Barbados in this country. We have lots of skills to help you really cope. Get a pen and paper, start to take note. Look, 4270212, man, a lot of help there waiting for you. And if you're not got the phone, no problem. Jump on any type of transportation. Perry Gas and Michael is our location. We got train counselors there for you, even workshops to help you get through. Barbados got developmental tools. We have a nursery and a preschool, so don't forget the phone number. Don't forget the location. Barbados, helping families in this nation. Our telephone number, 4270212. The address, Perry Gap, St. Michael. Our email address, admin@barbados.org.